Hi, my name is PJ Holiday. I'm the author of To Clear a Static Field, and I'm super excited that I get to share this book with people. And I wanted to just come on and talk a little bit about why I wrote the book and what it means to me. I started in 2016 diving into some mental health issues that I was having at the time. I was suffering from social anxiety and depression really bad, and I wasn't really sure why. I just knew that I felt that way, and I was really surviving like that for maybe 7 years, and I was over it. I needed to live again, and I started to write and saw a book was sort of presenting itself within my poetry. And it was asking, could poetry heal me? And I knew that the question around this book was something I wanted so desperately. So I began to write into those feelings and those emotions very intentionally, which is the important part. Healing is really an intentional act. It's something we choose, and we have to feel a lot of pain, honestly, in order to be the most healed we could possibly be. And so that is exactly what happened. I really dived into a lot of deep pain that I had, and realized that things bothered me that I never acknowledged. And I didn't, I was very young maybe, and I didn't know you could acknowledge those things. I wasn't really sure what to make of them, but I found that when we hold back our voices, when something's hurting us or bothering us or wounded us, grief, that's the origin of a lot of our issues. They turn into way worse circumstances in our lives. Like for me, it ended up looking like social anxiety and depression, and just not a good place. So I began to work through some older wounds in the first chapter, where I talk about a father wound and things around being a daughter that I didn't understand, that I wasn't rejected. I really had to face that for myself. And halfway through, I was writing this book at school. Through my semesters there, I was faced with a circumstance that caused a deep grief in my heart. And it was a lawsuit that my family was involved in against a very big corporation, a giant, if you will. And we basically lost, and it was kind of shocking to me because we shouldn't have. And I found myself in a deep moment of grief over it. And I had been learning to deal with my grief, and so I was like, well, what are you gonna do? Are you gonna practice what you're preaching here, and deal with the grief as it comes? And it was not easy, to face that in the moment, this injustice, and to choose to say what I needed to say. But so the second chapter is a little bit more raw, because it's happening in the moment that I'm living. Actually, I was processing it and writing it in the moment. So the first chapter deals with older grievances, and the second chapter deals with very much new issues that were coming up. And I will say that this book was a deep valley for me to walk through, and I am not the same person on the other side of it. I'm so grateful for everything that I got to face through writing this book. I didn't really like it at the time, but I'm enjoying it now. It's really just taken my life by storm, the response I'm getting, and how everybody's really connecting with the book. And I'm so glad, and it just seems like the things we go through sometimes feel so frivolous, and pain seems like it is pointless. And then you end up having such a gift. And I'm literally living a gift on the outside of a lot of pain. And I'm just so grateful. So I will attach a link where you can get the book if you haven't gotten it already. And definitely hope that you connect with it for yourself and find yourself addressing your own grievances, and, you know, not holding back when you're hurting. I am gonna leave with reading the title poem in the book. And I want to say, poetry, you're gonna be able to read this book in a day. You could, you know, but poetry is a lot more weighty. There's a lot more that you end up seeing, the connections and things like that within the individual poems and then the whole collection. So I highly recommend going back in any time that you're reading poetry, and you will start to see things, like kind of meditate a little longer on the words and things like that, to get a fuller picture, because there's just kind of always something to be discovered. I've learned as a writer of poetry, as a lover of poetry. I really hope that you know, we have sort of a revival in this nation and in the world for poetry. So here is To Clear a Static Field. The old televisions had bulbs inside. It took time to clear a static field, time to develop a feel for the switch. Pliers were used to repair a mind separate from itself, a voice bent behind silver distortions, tremors in the throat. Window light appears, a warm hand on the head, new life beyond clouds and interruption. The screen inhales, recalls a last channel, two blinking eyes opened in the sun.